It's really much appreciated when everybody talks into the microphones because you will not know what it's like to be deaf until you're deaf.
What?
Huh?
And it's also important for the audience that we talk into the microphone so we aren't having a private meeting up here that everybody else can.
Yeah, I know if you lean back in your chairs, that probably means that you're too far away from the microphone. So.
And I'll try to remind them if it's okay with the mayor to.
Please do. Okay, we all set? No. All right, welcome everyone. It is right around 6 o'clock. This is a regular meeting of the Arlington City Council. I'm Rich Nagel, I'm the mayor, and I will be presiding at the meeting. First, would you join me please in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, let's have roll call. Councilmember Cowell.
Here.
Councilmember Highland.
Here.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Here.
Councilmember Batcher.
Here.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Here.
All members are present. And on my left is City Administrator Melvin. And also in the audience we have Amy Newsom representing the Sibley County, and then we have a few gentlemen from OMG Midwest that want to speak to us for just a few minutes about the street project and the contract that goes along with that, and then Kurt Bank from the Arlington Enterprise. All right, to the consent agenda. You have the consent agenda in front of you, and well, let's get the regular agenda first. I'm sorry, skipped over that. Approve the regular agenda and any additions or corrections. I have one that would be number 8A. We can scratch. Maintenance Department report appears below also. We'll just take care of it at that time. So 8A can be scratched. Also, we are out of a courtesy to our guests from OMG, we're going to let them speak right after we deal with the consent agenda. Then we'll move into the public hearing. And at some point in time here, we would like to hear from Amy because she has to be at a meeting in Green Isle, or has to leave for a meeting in Green Isle around 6:45 or so. So we want to get the input from her before that. So with those notations and changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second it.
Motion by Councilmember Batcher, second by Councilmember Yashewski to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. Motion carried. All right, now to the consent agenda. Item 4 on your agenda, the approval of the consent agenda consists of the following. Item A, November 20th, 2017 regular meeting minutes. Item B, November 20th, 2017 special meeting minutes. Item C, November 28th, 2017 special meeting minutes. Excuse me. Item D, approval of a 2.2 increase in the operations and maintenance agreement with People Service, Inc. Item E, approval of Arlington Volunteer Fire Department new hire of Josh Flans. Item F, employee relations, dealing with the new employee, Patrolman Sarah Jakowski has started with the Arlington Police Department as of today, December 4th. And then lastly, approval of the bills. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with a hip hip hooray on item E and F.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Motion by Councilmember Highland, second by Councilmember Hattlestead to approve the consent agenda as read. Any more questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed no. Motion is carried. At this time, before we have the public hearing, Truth and Taxation, I would like to call our guests up to the microphone, if you would, two gentlemen, and state your names and who you represent for the minutes, please.
There you go.
Good evening. I'm Todd Albert. I'm the project manager and estimator for the Arlington downtown project. This is Steve Berkey with me with Old Castle. I'm representing Old Castle Midwest, doing business as Chard. I'd like to discuss some of the liquidated damages that was voted on November 20th for $11,500. I'd like to explain my viewpoint on some of the communication discussions with the engineer and some reasonings why I feel like that the vote for $11,500 is an unfair assessment, and strongly encourage you guys to reconsider that and put it as another agenda item for a future vote. So I'll try to keep it quick, and then I'd like to ask if Steve could get an opportunity to speak as well, in case I leave something out here.
Okay, we typically allow 5 minutes, so,
I'll try to keep it as quick as I can.
Okay, thank you.
So, we had the pre-con on May 11th, and before the pre-con I had some phone conversations with Jason Femerite about starting, and we were geared up to get started with approval from him for the following Monday, the 15th. We got to the pre-con. We had talked about where the logical location of where we start was, and there's really one spot to start at, the sanitary connection. Got brought up that there could be some conflicts with the school, and the start date might have some safety concerns with the school, and some inconveniences to the bus route at that time. It was mutually agreed upon that we could start, as soon as we could start would be June 5th, which we did start, and which was a 21 calendar delayed start. At the pre-con, we did state that while the schedule was tight, we felt like we could still get the bituminous paving done by the substantial completion date. At the pre-con, we also discussed that we wanted some flexibility with the remaining restoration, sidewalk, anything behind the curb, seating, driveways, etc. And I have an email, I believe I copied everybody on that email showing that we wanted some flexibility behind the curb. Why that information never got communicated to the council members, I'm unaware. But I'm trying to shorten this up a little bit more. I think you guys have all read the email, so with that being said, the substantial completion date for the contract was September 1st. We ended up getting the bituminous pavement done on the 14th, which is 13 calendar days. And based on your guys' response after the November 20th one, that you agreed to that, appreciated the flexibility on the delayed start and the 2 days for the alley. However, you had mentioned that I had failed, to communicate. Well, I think I've shown that I've communicated from day one that there would be a delay on some of the substantial completion items. So either way you add it up, 13 days seems like a fair and reasonable assessment. And with that, I guess I'd like to ask you guys to reconsider that assessment amount of liquidated damages from the $11,500 down to the $6,500 per my letter. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve in case I left some stuff out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council for hearing our plea. Part of what we went through here was that we had a discussion early at the pre-construction meeting, and one of the things that was agreed upon was that we would have no weekly meetings. Typically in our industry we have weekly meetings just for progress meetings. So our ability to be heard was really that of any phone calls or on-site through the inspector. The communication was kind of thwarted by just that decision, which was not our decision. I think it was maybe, I'm not too sure whose it was. So part of the communication item was already preset at that meeting. It wasn't our choice to maybe not communicate as much, nor did we think it would affect anything. Obviously, usually you don't in hindsight. But the math, I think we agree on everything except the math of what was liquidated damages. I turn that calendar, or we put that around just to show that there's 21 days there. And so September 1st being the finish date, we needed to extend the date before we'd even start any penalties. I'm not sure where the numbers came up for the $11,500. It just didn't make any sense to me when you look at the start date by contract and the start date by agreement, that we would hold off for security reasons or liability reasons around the school. You know, I just don't think we should be penalized for that. In the bid process, you know, we had a start date and we had an end date. Had that been bid at that time and someone else would have seen that, you know, it would have affected the school by the process that had to be happen, I feel like we're being penalized for something that we brought to everybody's attention, and yet we aren't allowed the actual time that was that we needed to have, those 21 days before we could actually start. And now we're only given a portion of those 21 days back when it comes to penalty. So I'm confused. We decided that we wouldn't even argue rain days. Typically that's what we'd be arguing about, is rain days and how much it rained or didn't rain, or how much is above normal and what's not above normal. That's typically what, you know, this type of thing would be. And we chose not to even bring that up. But I think when you look at that calendar, count those days, you'll see that there's 21 days there. Now 21 days plus the 2 days of additional alley work is 23 days. You know, that comes up with a different number than the $11,500 represents. You know, I could probably go on and on and on, and I usually do, so I'm not going to. I'll keep, I think my 5 minutes is 1 minute over, so we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys very much.
You're welcome, and we will take it up for discussion. It isn't on the agenda tonight, but at our December 18th meeting, we'll probably put it on there and just see what the current feelings of the council are.
Right, and I'd appreciate an invite back for that. That's going to be an agenda item that we could come back and comment accordingly. We haven't been afforded to talk to the council itself yet, and I know that, you know, the engineer has kind of steered everything to this point in time. One of the things that I wanted to mention is the 37 days never ever should have been out there. We should have had an opportunity to negotiate with Jason before it ever hit. The only way we found out about this is through the paper, which was a pretty shocking way to find out about it for us, you know, when we're the contractor, and that's how we find out about it, but we're gonna be penalized for 37 days. Anyway,
Okay,
I'll stop.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you wanna leave, if you wanna leave that with us?
Yeah,
or,
you can, you guys can
if
have
you want
all
us
this, make
to-
copies.
That'd be great, yeah, I would like to.
It's all the communication and letters that have been gone back and forth.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
uh-huh.
you.
Thanks, guys, drive safe home tonight.
You too. You too. Okay, then we will recess the regular meeting and open the public hearing. This is an annual truth and taxation hearing, and I will do that at this time. City Administrator Melvin.
Okay, give me a moment, please, here
Mhm.
to
Sure.
pull up. So, all right, well, good evening, folks. We are here this evening to conduct the Truth and Taxation meeting. So I'm glad to see we have an individual who's just walking in now. So welcome. If you could just sign on the form, I assume that you're here for the Truth and Taxation meeting. Is that correct?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's your regular council meeting, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
That'll follow the truth and taxation hearing.
Yep. I just wanted to check in case you had some questions that we could answer right away, but we'll go through our truth and taxation meeting and then the rest of the council meeting if you have any other items. So This meeting is required by the state. Basically what it is it's an opportunity for the city of Arlington to communicate with any interested residents about what is happening with regards to budgets, because obviously that is something that impacts them. And so it's an opportunity for residents to come to this meeting, to ask questions, to better understand what is driving the costs for the city of Arlington. So with no further ado, we'll jump into that. Being that this is kind of my first, I guess, month and a little bit more with the city, I've chosen to kind of take a big picture view. Obviously, in the future, we'll probably get down into more details, but bear with me and we will go through what we have here tonight. And if you have any questions, I can certainly answer those. What I would like to do, maybe before we jump too far into it, is share with you, based on our last meeting, we had a number of questions as we were going through the budget. We had a number of questions that were posed by you, and so first I'll just start by answering some of those questions. I had an opportunity to get together with Tom Olinger, who is from Abdo Eichen. Who's the other one? Myers. It's a third one that throws me. And so I did have an opportunity to sit down with him and go through in greater detail, posing some of the questions that you had asked earlier. So I got some answers to that, and would be happy to share that with you at this time. So there was a question about maturing CDs, and I believe there is a notation in there about some CDs that are maturing. Typically what Tom has advised the city to do in that situation is just to turn them over and renew them. He says that, you know, typically if you're looking to cash something in, he says you're better off to go ahead for a bond, group several projects together and go for a bond. He said that he would not advise, you know, unless you've got a small project or something that really fits in there, that he would not advise us cashing any CDs in at this time. So,
But there was some that were at maturity, correct?
yes, yep. And what he basically does is he just rolls them over, invests them into more CDs. Is what his recommendation was to do. So, also, you know, we talked a little bit about the maintenance on the sidewalks. That was a question. That was a question that came up. I did have an opportunity to talk to Kirby Winkworth, our Public Works individual. He said that we currently are well situated with regards to sidewalks, and that he didn't have any issues or concerns for them in 2018. Planning and zoning, as we had talked about at that meeting, the $15,000 floodplain mapping has been removed from there. We talked a little bit about a canine. I have inquired with John to get more information so that we can get a quote in terms of what it would cost to have a City of Arlington canine unit, insurance for the dog. We talked, there was a question about reserves. In other words, does the city have kind of a fund out there where if additional money is needed, it can be pulled from? That is actually the 401 capital improvement account, and that carries a balance, and we are going to be continuing to put money into that account to build that up, because the one thing that Tom says is that each year as time goes by, project costs are going up, and so we need to have the funding there available to do some different projects. There was, I think at one time there was a question, I think we ended up answering our own question with regards to whether or not the proposed new salary and wages, benefits, whether or not that was in the budget. yes, that is included in there. Tom had talked with Laura and gotten that taken care of. One thing that we did do, Tom was going to put money into a savings to deal with our law enforcement radio reception problems. I know that's something that's important to the council, and that number has quite a range right now. Hopefully we can narrow that down. But yeah, Tom did put some money in there. He put almost $500,000 in there, with the idea that hopefully we'll find some others to partner with us to get that done, if it is at the high range, which I think it was. We were given a range of 250,000 to 700. So we will have some funding available if that does become something that we need to take care of. There was a question about street signs that on one line item they had gone from 3,000 down to 2,000. I did talk with Kirby about that as well. He said that with the street project being done, that a lot of that was money that was spent on reflectivity, and that he doesn't see that as being a significant expense coming up in the next year. The city center re-roofed. I've talked to several people who've indicated to me that no, the community center here has not been re-roofed. It has?
I talked to somebody and they said it was re-roofed in probably
Oh, okay.
2010. Local contractor Travis Tuchtenhagen re-roofed it.
Okay.
And that was due to some faulty workmanship initially when it was built, that it needed to be re-roofed that soon.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
I'm not sure of the year, but roughly 7 to 8 years ago.
Okay. Okay. And it was also brought up that the AC units would probably need to be replaced. I was informed, Kirby said that, they do have a slow leak, and he's been, refilling them, but he's been able to keep them going that way. So if that's something that the council feels should be replaced, it's certainly something that we can do. There's 3 of them. I think it's a smaller budget item in the big picture of things. So let's see. There is some money in the parks budget for the gazebo. I think we had some discussion about that. I left with the assumption that there was a roof somewhere, but okay.
That really had nothing to do with it. The roof was salvaged by someone from the old gazebo.
Okay, and now it's on the gazebo back here, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for that clarification. We talked about, several different items, the squad car, the brush rig, some different things like that, the brush rig was purchased in 2017. The squad car is something that we're able to delay for another year. So we did make, that basically kind of hits on some of the questions that came up at our last meeting. And with that said, then we will jump into talking about our.
Should we maybe have Amy give her thing before you get into this and have to be
Sure.
interrupted?
Sure.
Maybe
This would be
not
perfect.
time.
Perfect timing.
Okay, well, we will interrupt our hearing just for a few minutes here and bring Amy Newsom in. We are dealing with contracting with the county for EDA services, consulting services, and there were some concerns at the last meeting that, and we'll be dealing with this later in our agenda as far as the contract itself, but there were some concerns in regard to how is the job going to fit together with what you're currently doing regarding the city of Arlington. So I don't know does that open it up generally enough? I know you had some serious concerns about how do we.
Yeah, do you want me to go ahead and
Go
start with
ahead.
a little background?
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you for bringing me up.
Sure.
I'm hearing what sounds like ice out there and getting worried about driving a green now. Well, Roxy and I met with the mayor and with Pat last week to talk about, we put together an agreement, and to talk about how my duties differ between the county and the city. In the broadest, rather than list everything out, how I would do it differently, in the broadest sense, anything I do that helps the whole county, like classes, business expo, business visits, I'm gonna keep business visits under my county duties, because those are something I do all cities. Anything I do to help the city of Arlington specifically, or Arlington businesses, will be billed to the city of Arlington. For example, if I'm writing a state grant that specifically is gonna help Arlington businesses, that is Arlington time. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
And then something else that Pat and the mayor and I talked about was the number of hours. I know that was also a concern. And Roxy and I were looking at the Smith grant that I wrote last year. We received, part of it was to help out economic development with our cities. And Roxy realized we still have some funds left. So we're proposing that we use some of our grant money, that Arlington pay for 6.5 hours a week, and we use grant money to pay for 1.5 hours. So you would get a total of 8 hours, but only pay for 6.5. Does that sound?
That'd be for 2018.
Hey, what a deal.
For the whole year
Yeah.
of 2018.
Yeah.
Alright.
Can we get that to 4 hours? Yes, that's a good deal.
My concern was just that we would not lose the services that you've been providing us as in the county position that you have been. And, I mean, I praise you for everything you've done, because you've done a lot for our community and the countywide.
Thank you.
But looking out for, our citizens is that I didn't wanna have to pay for the things that you already provided.
Exactly, and that's
So-
why, it was my suggestion that business visits, that's something I do for everybody, and you shouldn't be billed for that.
My concern was, do you have enough hours in the week?
We are working on getting additional staff at the county level so that some of the duties I'm currently doing, like the newsletter, Facebook, website, that will go over to someone else, and I can focus more on economic development. So it may be an intern program. Roxy and I talked about having an intern program. I had an intern this summer. She was wonderful. She was 40 hours a week. She did an excellent job, but she could take over a lot of those duties. She can do EDA minutes for me. She could type up my minutes and agendas, and she could work on the newsletter, and she scheduled my business visits, so she did a lot of the calling for me. So that left me time to meet with the businesses. So we will do something so that I'll have someone to help me.
And as far as the 8 hours a week, it's not definitely 8 hours a week, it's as needed. So if one week maybe it's only in, a few, 2-3 hours, the next week maybe, 10, 13.
Yeah, and
just that it'll average
that
out.
is something I do with Green Isle. We kind of shared that with Pat and the mayor. I keep track of my hours. Sometimes in Green Isle, they get 4 hours a week. Sometimes it was 0 hours, sometimes it was 2. Some weeks it was 12 when I was working on the tax abatement, then it was 12 hours a week. So it just depends, but I'm finding that we're averaging out actually pretty close to their allotted hours for the year. So I'll keep track of it on a spreadsheet and share it with Pat, so he can see where we're sitting hour-wise.
Well, and I guess, we don't wanna cut off at 8 hours a week and just be totally firm, but what we've had in the past, that's all that has been needed. But I guess, if you find that there's things that, or more hours that are needed, I hope that's communicated.
Yeah, and I think Pat and I are able to communicate pretty well, we have so far. So that was something, if I'm working on a big project like a tax abatement or like a grant that has a deadline, I may put in, 10, 12 hours during the week to make sure it gets done.
And we discussed also, if there's busy time when a business comes, Amy doesn't necessarily have to come down to Arlington. If she can get the work done and wants to do it from her office up in Gaylord, that's fine. If she needs some legwork to be done down here, myself or someone in our office would be more than happy to help her out to try and, stretch out and get as much done as we can together, so.
And the time I spend in Arlington, I see myself out at the businesses, not necessarily sitting in the office here. I'd rather be out talking to business
I think we'd
I'd
rather.
rather
be
have you
out.
there too.
I was just gonna say that, we'd rather have you out and talking to businesses.
Okay, any other questions or concerns for Amy?
I think it clears up a lot of things that,
Yeah,
Is that any,
Or
yeah,
questions,
does that
yeah.
help?
yeah.
I just want to emphasize communication, as the two gentlemen just ahead of you were, it was lack of communication, not letting the other know exactly what's going on, and then feelings get hurt, and so if we can keep everything on the table, then we all
I
can-
agree.
Okay,
Okay,
I think that's it.
okay,
And we'll
thank
be
you.
back.
Thank you, Amy.
Drive careful.
Thank
Drive safely.
drive fast, take chances.
Just remember to call Jim from the ditch.
All right,
Everybody else says drive careful.
Yeah.
we will continue with the truth and taxation hearing at this time.
Okay. So going back, the state requires that local government conducts a hearing, and that's what we are here for this evening, is to talk a little bit about the budget and some of the challenges that we're facing, and help individuals to better understand what is driving expenses with their local government. So first thing I'll do is give you a little update on kind of how I'm involved in this picture and where we're coming from. So back in June of 2017, the administrator at that time had started preparing kind of the budget process, Liza Donna Bauer. At that time, she sent out a request to departments inquiring with them about any significant capital projects, any significant changes in your budget. Based on that, then Laura Elvebach, who was the interim administrator, worked a bit with Tom Olinger, who is works with the firm that does the audits for City of Arlington. They met, they reviewed budgets, and very happy to say that Tom has put together kind of a 5-year budget plan for the City of Arlington, which I think is really a key to looking ahead and planning and trying to reduce those surprises that may pop up. The City Council back on September 18th approved an increase that was about 6%, or a levy that came to $859,934. So the preliminary levy was set at that. The city has the option; they cannot go any higher than that, but you certainly can go lower. We had a meeting at the end of November. On the 20th, we had a special budget workshop. At that time, we went through and we compared the 2018 budgeted numbers and how they ranked against 2017. So that's where some of the questions, which I responded to earlier in the meeting, are derived from that prior meeting. So this is just a kind of a map of the whole process. Typically, if there's taxpayers out there that are at the city meeting, I've experienced this also at the county, typically what they really want addressed is the valuation of their property, and there's a process that they have to go through. Starts out with dealing with the assessor. Since we don't have any individuals here who are dealing with that, I will just quickly jump on to the next slide here. So what we're here to do tonight is we're here to go through the budget. Everybody is free to ask questions, to have a better understanding, and then the plan is that at our next meeting on December 18th, we will approve a final levy, which will then be submitted to the county, and we will move forward in that way. So based on, this is just to let you know, based on numbers that I currently have put together, and again, this is working with Tom Olinger, we are looking at a 2.53% increase in the budget. What that brings us down to is per capita $373. I was going to pull up some other numbers to kind of give you a comparison. I wasn't able to, and I should say this is the 2017 per capita. So let me, or 2018 per capita, I'm sorry, that we have based on these numbers. So the population, our tax levy will be for 2018, as it's currently scheduled, $831,934. Municipal tax then would be $373. So, and this is basically how this is basically how we're coming up with the tax rate. We're taking the city's tax levy. I'm sorry, these numbers I think are looking a little strange to me now, so.
I see their 2013 figures.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, and then that tax levy number is not accurate there, so. Let me skip over that one in light of those flaws. I will tell you that the tax capacity for the city has actually gone up. Previously, it was lower at 824,617. Let me see if I can't just quickly reconfigure this number here. I think this should be. This is the city's tax levy, which would be 831,934. Let me come back to that. I apologize. So I will get something out to you, everybody, afterwards. So here, looking at the 2018 proposed budget numbers, this is what we are slated to look at. So as you can see, I've got the 2017 number as well as the 2018, and then over on the far right shows the increase and the decrease. The general fund is going up. Is going up 0.48%. The other levies are going up about 3.8%. Looking at some of our debt service, we have the 2015 fire pumper. That's dropping significantly from 62,000 to 35,000. The 2015 street and utilities are staying pretty consistent. Our community center debt is going from 59 to 50. Our 2009 general obligation refinanced bonds are going from 31 to 47. Our 2012 general obligation bond from 17 down to 5. And then the number which is really driving a lot of our increase is the 2017 general obligation bonds, which are new, which are coming on at 51,800. So with that said, that's how we arrive at a 2.53% increase.
So if I might ask a question, Pat, like on the debt service fire pumper, 35,000. That's what we'll pay this year on that pumper,
Correct.
and next
Yeah,
year
that's the
it could be 20,000
Could, yes,
till it's
yep,
paid off. Does that make sense?
yep,
Am I looking
yep,
at that right? Okay.
Yep. yep, we're just looking at what we're gonna be paying in 2018, so we have to have funds in order to cover those expenses. So moving on, so here's kind of a breakdown of what we have. Obviously, the general fund is a very significant portion of our expenses, but then you do have added in there some different ones. Moving on then to look at our levy amounts. As you can tell, the levy has steadily been climbing, and I think this is a much better strategy than, you know, having a levy that maybe spikes or increases at certain times, to have a slow, steady growth versus have kind of a crisis management where you have to increase it by 6 or 7% and then have a couple of years with, you know, no increase. And I think that's kind of Tom, in terms of advising the city, that's his strategy, is to, you know, continue to keep building up some money so that you have kind of that rainy day fund for anything that may need immediate attention. So. Revenues, we've been actually quite fortunate in that the local government aid, which is provided by the state, we have actually got a significant increase in 2018. We went from 100,883 to 748, 100,914. So that was a nice increase. If you look back historically, there have been a few years where it's been frozen. 2012, 2013, it was frozen. 2016 and 17, it was just a very minimal increase. So part of that is, I believe, driven by businesses and trying to take into account, you know, the resources that cities have to fall back on. And so when we lose businesses, they probably increase the funding through LGA to help us during those difficult times. Any questions on that? Taxes. Taxes continue to go up. So that's a pretty significant portion of what we rely upon. Other would be fees, license fees, permit fees, different things associated with that. Property taxes account for 38.8% of the revenue. That's pretty typical from what it was last year, no significant change. Local government aid has actually increased, but overall, as our makeup is, it's actually decreased in the percent of city funding that it's providing. So all other revenue sources in the general fund account for 11.5% of those revenues. That's a slight increase from the 2017 budget. So things are really pretty much staying consistent from prior years. Here's just showing you kind of a comparison in terms of some department budgets, in terms of where things are going. with that, you can see administration has some increases there. Elections, because it'll be an election year. Otherwise, a lot of things are staying pretty consistent. Planning and zoning went up a sizable amount. The police department has gone up in part because the police department hasn't been fully staffed in the past. So it may appear as a significant increase, but you know, you can also take a look and say, well, you haven't had all those personnel costs in the past. And then moving on, Public Works. I was not able to find street lighting, so I'm not sure if that account has dropped off or what, but that's something I'll have to follow up on to provide you with. I don't know, Kirby's in the audience. Is there a street lighting account that I missed out there that you know of, or? Okay. Park and Rec gone up a little bit, libraries a little bit, transfers have gone down a little bit. So total general fund has increased a significant amount there. Again, part of that is wages for law enforcement and other things that are happening. Here's a few items that I wanted to call your attention to as we take a look at kind of what's going on with the budget for the city of Arlington. Again, like I mentioned earlier, the police department now is up to full staff, so they've got 3 individuals.
As of today.
As of today, correct. Yep, with Sarah just starting today. So we plan to have her come on the 18th to have the oath.
Swearing in.
Yeah. Another item is that the city is currently proposing, and it's included in the budget, is to make some changes to the salary system that the city has used, as well as take a look at some of the benefits to possibly make some changes there. The whole focus really is on attracting and retaining qualified, competent employees. So that's something that is planned. The health insurance for city employees, health insurance has gone up 20%. In an earlier meeting with the Employee Relations Committee, we've had the discussion about going with a 60-40 split, recognizing that, you know, it's neither employee, well, it's not employer that has control over that. The employee has maybe a little bit more control, but we're kind of both caught between a rock and a hard place. So with that said, the city's proposing a 60-40 split of that
And it
increase.
currently is what?
Currently it's at 75-25.
25, okay.
Yep. So some of the things that we were able to do in terms of looking at budget was the police department is able to delay replacement of a 2013 squad. That'll be pushed forward another year, so you will end up, you know, probably looking at that in 2018. Things to look out on the horizon for is, again, looking at that law enforcement radio reception within the city of Arlington. That's going to be a significant expenditure if the city does move ahead with that. Another thing that came to light as we were talking about the 2018 budget is that we have electrical rates, which are a project was secured by a bond, and as such the bond requires that you bring in a certain amount of revenue to secure that. And Shannon Sweeney has contacted me and informed me that we may be falling behind on that. So that's something that we will have to maybe take a look at in 2018 and possibly increase increase, fees.
So no increase proposed for 2018.
Correct. At this time, I talked with Tom, and he said at this time that we don't need to do anything, that, let's keep an eye on it, and let's, talk about something in the new year,
Is that
so.
partially due because of the loss of revenue with Seneca being closed?
It probably is in part that, and maybe another part is I don't think that we've increased or adjusted our fees in some time, so probably a combination of those things, maybe.
Well, I know I've been turning my lights out as much as I can,
Okay.
so that may be a.
You're doing your part, that's.
So
We'll
maybe
go
I
with
should
that.
leave them on longer so
leave
that.
If you leave them
Yeah.
on longer, the city will charge you more and make a little more.
Yeah.
We don't have to, either way, you're gonna pay.
I see it coming.
Well, hopefully with the new owner of part of the Seneca property, that'll boost the usage in that area
Yeah.
in the coming years.
And I know I just talked with Josh from Northland Drying and kind of questioned him as to when they might get started, and he didn't have a real good answer. He obviously wants to start as quickly as possible, but I think he's waiting on some other things, so. Yeah. So again, what we're looking at for an overall city levy increase is 2.53%, or $831,934 the levy for 2018.
I think you got one slide left, Pat.
Do I have one? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. This is just a listing of some of the capital improvement items that departments have identified. One of which is a work truck that will be split between Parks and Public Works. The gazebo park shelter that will be done in Memorial Park. Lawnmower, a new city telephone system, replacing an old substation in the city's electrical system, and then some cooling fans in the northeast substation. So those are items that came in from department heads for 2018. I think what probably the next step should be is just to verify with department heads that in fact these are still valid items, because I think there might have been, I know in talking with Kirby, there have been a few items that maybe were identified a long time ago, but as things have changed, maybe are no longer valid. So we'll continue having that discussion, and I believe as long as there are items out there that are planned for, if the money needs to be moved around to different priorities, that's acceptable. Staying within the parameters that we have.
Okay, any other questions in regard to the truth and taxation? Any whatsoever? Hearing none, we will adjourn the truth and taxation hearing and resume the regular city council meeting at 6:53 p.m. At this time, I believe, Don, did you want to address the council?
Yes, I would.
Okay, if you could come forward, please, to the microphone and.
And I understand that, I'm given up to 6 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever, so
So
Yep.
if I get carried away,
I'll stop you.
good.
I've known Don for 30 or 40 years, so I know that I can stop him if I need to, but.
Right. And Pat, I guess that I owe you a bit of an apology, because when I came in here, I didn't answer your questions as to why I was here or anything like that. I'm here in regard to the agreement you have with Green Isle on the sewage system. First of all, I do have the papers that were originally signed and put into effect. I think that instead of Green Isle or Arlington, it ends up in High Island Creek, got a watershed. And with that, it really starts in Green Isle in the Ovens Creek watershed. So that extends both ends of it a little bit. I'm mainly unhappy because I still own land in Highland Creek watershed. I lost a bridge a few years ago. This was not a driving across bridge, but a walking bridge. I'm not sure what else. I don't think the agreement was originally signed and goes for 40 years. There's part of the agreement that isn't being lived up to by the city of Arlington or the sewage department. There's some taxes that are due, and they've never been billed, and that's as of the auditor's department. I'm not very well mentally organized. I will use that as my excuse. I'm currently living in Oak Terrace healthcare because of an injury I had, and I am up in years and with a damaged brain, so things don't go always the way I'd like to do. I would like to, if you want to get back to me, I can give you my phone number. It's 507-995-3143. That's a cell phone. One of the things that I did discover, but I'm not 100% positive, revision of status, that you go on your computer and look it up and you can find new laws in the state of Minnesota. And I'm not sure how to say this. Evans Creek watershed in Green Isle. Green Isle is about in the center of it. Not sure what to say here. Oh. My 6 minutes must be up, and I apologize that I didn't have more information here.
Would you be able to, I know you have some, you mentioned about taxes that weren't billed and some specifics like that, would you be able to sit down with Administrator Melvin and go into what you found on that so that we can dig into that a little bit?
Well, I'd be willing to sit down with you someday, and I won't be able to give you too much information on it. I guess the one thing, this is a long document. Was first signed in 1999, and takes a while to read it and understand the agreement.
Okay.
So I try to answer any questions that I can.
If you can leave some information behind and I can take a look at it, and then once I try and grasp read the document, review it, maybe then you and I can sit down and talk about and see if there's something that we can do, or if I can dig up some more information, I'll do what I can to help you.
I'd be happy to do that. some of these documents I got from the city office,
Okay,
so you have those available to you.
The agreement, I suppose, is one of them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So if there's any other questions, I'll try to answer them, otherwise I will
I'm
thank you
just
for your time.
confused with what you're asking us to do. I know you've got a document that you feel is not being lived up to, but that's about all I've been able to figure out so far. So what are you
Okay.
asking of us?
What I would like to see is closing the sewage plant to the city of Green Isle, and it would lessen the amount of water that goes into High Island Creek. And there was a high water a few years back that caused the tree to catch part of my bridge and take it with it. I don't know the answer. I don't know what I'm sorry I can't answer. I appreciate your question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Don. We will try and look into some of those things for you.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving right along, we'll go into announcements. Item number 7 on the agenda.
just wanted to inform the public that city offices will be closed at noon on Friday, December 22nd, and all day on Monday, December 25th, in observance of the Christmas holiday. And then moving on to item B, also an announcement that city offices will be closed on New Year's Day, Monday, January 1st.
Assuming then the normal city council meeting in January will be the following evening, January 2nd?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then move into item 8, communications.
First item we have, and that is included in your packet, is a water operations and maintenance report from Lee. In the past, I'm not sure how this report has been dealt with, if it's been included in the board or in the council packet.
Usually is, yeah.
Or,
Mhm.
okay,
Yep, yep.
okay.
The way you're doing it is fine.
So I would welcome any questions or anything that you would have on that. I would be more than happy to follow up with Lee.
The question that strikes me after Mr. Nussmeier's comments is what the water output of that plant was before Green Isle water came this way and after. How does it compare? How many more gallons are
Pre and post.
discharged?
Pre and post Green Isle.
Pre and post Green Isle, yeah. So we can see how large a issue that may be.
Well, and also what proportion our plant adds to the creek as opposed to the other flow.
Right.
I suspect it's a very minuscule proportion.
Yeah, and he was talking about a number of years ago, and I'm guessing he was talking about the heavy rains in 2014, which did a lot of damage. So.
But it looks like, I remember the report, looks like we're getting about 150 to 200,000 gallons more back in the sewer system than we're pumping out in our well system in the fresh water.
Okay.
So it's a system that just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I think we talked about once that, portion of that I'm sure is Green Isle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got some infiltration of other groundwater
Right.
that sneaks in there.
Yeah.
So, it'd be interesting well, they should have a meter as to how much water is being pumped from Green Isle into our system, I would think.
There's,
Yeah, I would think there is. So. Okay, item C then?
Just wanted to share with the council a letter that was received from MediaCom announcing that their rates will be adjusting.
But they don't indicate to what degree.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, they do?
In
Okay.
the letter, they do indicate that
All right.
there's a variety of different charges that they have, and it looks like all of those are increasing to some degree.
Sounded like they blamed, not blamed, but attributed a lot of the increases into the networks that keep charging the cable and satellite facilities more money.
Last 10 years, 1,078% is what that's went up. Local pay from the local channels have increased in their charge 1,078%.
That is just unbelievable to me, considering that I put an antenna on my roof and get those channels for free.
But you don't get all the cable channels.
Well, no, but that's what they're.
You're getting the local channels.
Right.
I get them all on my fish house. Every no charge.
Right, exactly.
I
That's
think
why
by
I
law
said
they have to do that.
they have to.
The deal here is MediaCom is buying those services from those stations and then selling them to their subscribers. If you buy one of those high def antennas, you're pulling it out of the airwaves at no charge.
Right.
But if you're selling it to a subscriber, then they have to pay for it. And in the end, everybody pays for it. Dish bought that. They did not pay the increase. I lost my channels for approximately, Channel 4 went out. But not long, because they did not want, they said, we will fight them, we will not pay these increases. And it was a matter of a week maybe, and it came back. How that turned out, I don't know. I haven't seen my next bill, but I'm assuming that they got what they wanted because the increase, and they were the ones that said it was 1,078% in the last 10 years. That's how much they've increased their fees for their local channels. And places like MediaCom and whoever it is, they just pay it. You know, they don't have any skin in the game. If it goes up $3, they charge their end users $3 more. So until the end user says something, nothing you can do about it.
Item D.
Another item that probably doesn't come very often, we got a thank you note from the Sibley County Public Health and Human Services Department, just basically thanking us for being able to use the community center for their meetings. So wanted to be sure to share some good news with you.
All right. Moving on to item 9, ordinances. Second reading of ordinance 313. This is ordinance dealing with the code of ordinances. Attorney Arneson, do you want to jump in on that?
Well, I hope the council isn't disappointed. I did not bring the 3 ring binders with me in order to actually read this code.
We got it last week.
We all have ours.
We have our Bibles.
Yeah.
I didn't get one.
I got mine with me.
Nope. What a guy.
Well, does anyone have any questions, comments, changes at this point? Again, this is a living document, just as our old code of ordinances was. This is just a better organized version, and we're sloughing off a lot of ordinances that had been superseded, outdated, amended, and so we did shrink down the volume considerably as well. I think the final count was 315 ordinances are now in 31 chapters of this code. But as we detect things that should be changed in the future, or council just decides to change the policy as presently written, you always have the opportunity to do that. So it's not as if this is, a final chance of any kind. It's just we're moving if the council approves this code tonight, we're moving from the old ordinance system into the code system. And hereafter, as we make amendments or changes, we'll be making amendments to, you know, code chapter 15, section 6. As opposed to, well, gee, this maybe amends ordinance 53 and 76 and 209, and, you know, that was the problem we had with the old system. So if there are any immediate questions or changes, I guess I'd be happy to hear them. Otherwise, I would suggest that we could move forward and adopt the code.
Okay. Any questions? I know we deal with this in resolution form down below, but at this time, this is considered the second reading, and I would entertain a motion to approve of ordinance number 313.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 313, an ordinance enacting a code of ordinances for the city of Arlington, Minnesota, amending, restating, revising, updating, codifying, and compiling certain ordinances of the city dealing with subjects and embraces in the code of ordinance and provide penalties for the violation of the code of ordinances.
Very good.
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilmember Yashewski, second by Councilmember Batcher to approve ordinance 313, this following the second reading of said ordinance. And I will not read the title again. Mr. Yashewski did a wonderful job at that. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried unanimously. All right, move on to resolutions then. Resolution 82-2017. And this is the one dealing with our EDA coverage, so to speak. EDA consulting with the county. Open for discussion. Did you have any comments you wanted to make in regard to the, basically, we took the same contract that we had with the group that Holly Kreft was associated with and made some obvious changes, but the nuts and bolts are quite similar as far as a 30-day notice if either party wants to terminate the agreement, and so.
And we did do a 1-year agreement.
1-year agreement.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the fact we get 1.5 hours a week surely doesn't hurt for free either.
Right.
That's
Sort
right.
of an introductory offer.
Yeah,
You can't beat that program.
that's right. I'd like to introduce Resolution 82-2017, authorizing the City of Arlington to enter into an agreement for consulting services with Sibley County for our EDA.
I will second that.
Resolution 82-2017 was introduced by Councilmember Batcher, second by Councilmember Hattlestead. That resolution, 82-2017, is a resolution authorizing the City of Arlington to enter into an agreement for consulting services with Sibley County for EDA purposes. Any more discussion? Roll call vote. Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
Councilmember Batcher.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed, resolution is adopted. Flip my pages over here. Okay, resolution 83-2017. Okay, and that one is dealing with the Sibley County Pheasants Forever request for gambling permit for the event to be held on February 10th, 2018 at the Arlington Community Center. This is something we do every year.
I'll introduce resolution 83-2017, a resolution approving the application for a lawful gambling permit for Sibley County Pheasants Forever.
Second.
Resolution 83-2017, introduced by Councilmember Cowell, second by Councilmember Highland, and that is a resolution approving the application for lawful gambling permit for Sibley County Pheasants Forever. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote by roll call vote. Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed, the resolution is adopted. Resolution 84-2017, we do not have a resolution, I don't think, for that one. I didn't, there wasn't any in the packet.
Yeah,
Was there one in the packet? There were some supporting letters, but I did not see the resolution in this form, you know, with the,
Oh, you know, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
can we hold off until next meeting for that? Or is that?
Yeah, no, I think it just has to
Or
be by
can we-
year.
Well, procedurally, you can do it.
We could do it,
verbally.
and just fill in the blanks
Okay.
after it's created. Okay,
Okay.
let's do that then.
I would like to make a motion to accept the donation, $3,000 from Compeer Financial for the Arlington Volunteer Fire Department to purchase a thermal imaging camera.
I'll second it.
Resolution 84-2017 was introduced by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Hattlestead, and that is a resolution accepting a $3,000 donation from Compeer Financial for Arlington Volunteer Fire Department to purchase a thermal imaging camera. And that will be Resolution 84-2017 to be created. Any discussion?
Could we also send a thank you note?
Certainly.
Okay. If not, we'll have a roll call vote. Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yes.
Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
All in favor, none opposed. Resolution is adopted. Resolution 85-2017. This is officially approving ordinance 313, the one we just acted on above, and providing or authorizing summary publication thereof.
I'll introduce Resolution 85-2017 for publication.
Second.
Okay, resolution 85-2017 was introduced by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Cowell. And that is a resolution approving ordinance number 313 entitled An Ordinance Enacting a Code of Ordinances for the City of Arlington, Minnesota, amending, restating, revising, updating, codifying, and compiling certain ordinances of the city dealing with subjects embraced in the Code of Ordinances and providing penalties for the violation of the Code of Ordinances and providing for a summary publication thereof. Roll call vote. Councilmember Yashewski.
Yes.
Councilmember Batchor.
Yes.
Councilmember Hattlestead.
Yes.
Councilmember Highland.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cowell.
Yes.
All in favor? Unopposed? Resolution is adopted. And lastly, Resolution 86-2017, an agreement to provide for ownership and maintenance of a rectangular rapid flash beacon crosswalk warning system, and that is on Highway 5.
I know this has been a topic of discussion for a while. Has this sign or this flashing beacon been in working order now?
Yep. Maintenance.
Talking about the one right over here?
Yeah.
By parochial
Because it
school.
wasn't working
Parochial-
Saturday correctly
Parochial
when I-
school.
Down by
Oh,
Brow.
broke.
Down by Browse.
This one had some issues right here
Really?
on the highway.
So,
I walked home from the parade Saturday.
It didn't flash at all?
okay, so it's only dealing with the one by the parochial
Yes.
school, not this one
No,
here?
this one we own already.
Oh,
Yeah, this one we own because we remember we paid for it during the 2015 project. So that one never has been. And Kirby, you said that one, other one is in working order? The one down by the parochial school?
It's in working order. The battery that was in there replaced, not by the state department, so I don't know if that was something the previous supervisor had been in and done, and that battery seems to not be charging.
Oh, really? Okay.
At the time that I met with him, it was working, and it was charged enough to be working.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main issue is it's on sometimes when it shouldn't
When
be
it
on.
doesn't need to be on, yeah.
Right. But
And that is solely,
I haven't seen that myself.
okay,
We had the one, citizen come in with telling us, I think, that it wasn't working. But that's the only other thing I've heard about it.
okay,
And he took me through it, showed me how to maintain it and
okay.
keep it going, and up to a certain point, then we can call them and they can come and fix it.
And,
And it seems pretty routine. Personally have no problem
Okay.
if we take that over.
both systems are both lights are the same, right? I mean,
Yep.
they're the same, take the same batteries and take, okay.
Yes, yeah. So,
And I,
keep an eye on that one, and the easiest fix, I guess, right away is battery. Try the battery if it fails again.
You
So
know-
is that something that we wanna request from the state before we sign this agreement, or are we just gonna agree to it and take on that charge?
Do you know how much they are, Kurt?
12-volt battery, probably $100.
Rechargeable,
Yep,
is that what it is?
yep, they got a system in them that should keep recharging. That's why the solar panels are on them too. That's supposed to help keep it charged.
So that's the only way it recharges is by solar, or does it have an electrical connection
It's
also?
got an electrical connection.
It does.
too. Yep.
Okay.
That's why the guy I met with from MnDOT thought it was probably a bad battery.
Hmm.
He suggested starting with that, and if that's not the cause, then we called him.
I mean, I think if it doesn't work, then then we own it.
Well,
Well, there's
yeah,
gotta
I
be a way to
would,
test the battery.
It's got an indicator on it.
It does for voltage,
Yep.
as long as the
It was,
indicator's working correctly.
Yeah, it was 11.2 or something like that. Volts.
so it was charged.
It was charged, not all the way charged.
But not all the way.
Well,
No, not all the way.
very slight.
So what would
I-
be your recommendation, Kirby? Accept this,
I
or?
think this sounds like something we went around with a couple times already. And they had changed the batteries as recently as, I think it was 2015, and they should last quite a while. And being that they're being recharged. I don't think it's that big of a burden.
How long ago was MnDOT out here?
He was here a couple weeks ago.
And the light was working at that time? Is that what, a couple weeks ago?
Light worked when we were there.
Okay.
To me, it sounds like something we could go round and round with until we eventually have to take it over anyways.
it's my understanding
We could
that
ask them for a new battery, or supposed to get the batteries replaced. if any.
just based on my limited knowledge, in speaking with the individual at the state, she indicated that when they removed those stoplights, it was upon request of the city that we put in those flashing beacons, so I don't know if in fact that's the case or not.
Yeah, I don't recall either, but it makes sense, I suppose, that they were concerned with the school crossing at that intersection.
And
They were just upset, as I was on the council,
Okay.
they were concerned about just the safety. The red light was there and had been there since they put it in, and they were concerned about safety. And we had it was at the same time the Safe Routes to School was being put in. And so on one hand, we're making protection for our kids, and other ways we're taking it away. And that's what I know.
Okay.
Actually, it was kind of a case, I think it was a trade-off. We vociferously objected to their taking our stoplights away. And using the parochial school children as an example, we had told the state, well, okay, fine, you're taking our stoplights away, but at least can we have a crosswalk warning light? So,
That was a concession,
I think, yeah, I characterize it more as a concession than the state generously meeting our request for crossing.
Well, and I think at that point too, there was upgrades that needed to be done to the signal light. So
yeah.
in lieu of spending all that money on the signal light, they decided that they didn't want the signal light there anymore.
Well, it was supposedly based on some traffic flow studies. We always hear this from the highway department, in conjunction too with our continual request to have some of our speed limits changed. And it's always that, well, they say it's a competition between free and speedy flow of traffic as opposed to community safety concerns. And they supposedly had a study saying that, I guess we didn't have enough volume of cross traffic to warrant keeping the stoplight in Arlington or in Gaylord, or did they pull Winthrop's too?
They
I think
did,
so.
yes.
Yeah,
There's not a stoplight in Sibley County right now.
yeah, so they took all of our stoplights away in the county based on that study. But I suspect it was a budgetary move,
Right.
as Michelle was mentioning.
Well, council, do we wanna get this resolution going, or do we wanna wait and check on a few things first?
I would like to either table it or, until we at least get the battery replaced. I would like to take something over while it's working, not while we're having issues. So,
I'll second that.
Okay,
if Kirby wants to check on,
motion to table a resolution 86-2017 has been made by Councilmember Batchor, second by Councilmember Highland. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That will be tabled then until we have a resolution on what the condition of the light is and the battery.
So just so that Kirby and I have the same understanding, so Kirby, are you going to order, is it in Kirby's lap to go ahead and order a battery to make sure that that works, or is it for us to go back to the state and ask them to purchase the battery, if that's what we suspect is the...
well, it's not our property yet, so I would
Correct, yeah.
hope that the state would have it up in running order before we took it over. That
Okay.
would be my,
I would think we'd want it up and running in proper working order before we take it on.
right.
And it was when Kirby was out there with the MnDOT individual, correct, Kirby? It was working at that time, but we've heard
That it's not though.
reports that it's not.
Or
So,
intermittent.
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 I hate
What has been the record over the years of those two lights? Has it been a consistent problem that has to be dealt with, or is it just coincidentally that both of them have been a problem just of late? Because that makes a difference. If it's not been a problem, then we don't have much ground to stand on. But if they've been problems since they've been put in,
I really don't know.
I think it would be different if we could, we could cite a specific, obviously Kirby was there with the MnDOT individual. At that time it worked. Were there concerns with the batteries? Did the MnDOT individual, did he?
On the battery status, it wasn't fully charged,
Okay, so,
and it hadn't been being used, so it should have been charged.
okay. I think that would be our approach then, to say that we wanna make sure those batteries are fully charged.
Well, this is anecdotal, but I think Kirby mentioned it too. I travel that route, several times a day, and it seems like the lights are flashing quite often when there's no one in the area.
Now that you say that, I've noticed that, yes.
No one on the sidewalk to trigger
But it's still flashing.
Still flashing.
And one additional problem with that is, as the motoring public perceives that, they're gonna start ignoring the lights.
Because they're flashing all the time.
Yeah, they're flashing all the time, and there's
Nobody's
Randomly
there.
when
like they
nobody's there.
keep calling Walt.
Yep.
How long do they flash after somebody crosses? You know?
I don't know what the timing
They
is
should
on it.
shut off, I would imagine, after they cross the road. I mean, just like the signal lights, you know, they would give you 15 seconds to count down so you can cross the street and then stop flashing. I would imagine it's the same thing, a set amount of time.
Mhm.
That wouldn't be like a minute long, I would imagine.
I bet it is.
Does the vehicle set them off?
Run out there and
No.
see.
No,
what's on
traffic
there.
on the sidewalk
The
is
traffic
supposed to
on the
set them off.
sidewalk.
Yeah,
Foot
sidewalk
traffic
traffic.
on the sidewalk
When
is
you push
supposed
the
to.
button, actually, but you have to push the
There's a
button, or
button?
is
I
it
don't
just
think
on
there's a
there?
That should be
button.
activated by a person walking.
Yeah, it
Okay.
should be activated.
There's a
That should
switch.
be activated.
So it makes a difference how
The tilted.
how the
Or
eyes are,
adjusted.
Yeah, cause if the eye's not
tilted.
picking up on the spot
Right.
where the human walks, they're not gonna go out.
and I'm thinking in fall, if a leaf blows in front of it, that might be enough to kick it on.
That's what he had, that sparks my memory now.
Yeah.
He had suggested that, he said, in the fall, when leaves are falling,
Yeah,
that could be the case, or
Yeah.
grand, you know, we've had some pretty significantly windy days too.
mhm.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
I would just really like to see it
The battery
in
still wasn't charged, so that's.
proper
Well,
working order
yeah,
before we
if
take it
it's- If it's
over.
not
It should
been
be
working,
charged.
Yeah.
and the charging system is working correctly, that battery should be at full amperage. If it's not, something's wrong with the
Connections through
system.
the battery were full amperage.
Huh?
Connections to the battery were full amperage.
But was the battery?
No.
Battery wasn't.
No, so you got a bad battery, it sounds like to me.
And it might be peanuts or whatever, but
He said it could be the solar chargers too.
Yeah,
yeah, I
But
mean,
if the solar chargers aren't working, the other charger that's 110, if you're checking the feeds and they're full amperage, then it really, it's immaterial if the solar is, I mean, it should be working, but the battery should still be charged. And if you test the battery and it's not, well, if the wires are kicking the amperage out and the battery's not taking it, obviously, it sure appears that the battery would be the issue.
okay, that item then has been tabled. We'll move on to unfinished business, update on new signage.
Just wanted to give the council an update that we have, working with Kirby, we have ordered some additional signage, a couple of stop signs that were gonna be placed on Third Avenue and West Douglas by the school there. John, I think his police chief, John Pedersen, has taken a look at it and is recommending stop signs there for safety purposes. And we are also ordering some no parking from here to the corner signs to be placed outside of the fire department. So just wanted to give you an update that those signs are being ordered and they will be installed as soon as the opportunity presents itself. So
And that sign installation is done by our sign person?
Yes.
Okay. John Peterson?
From
Mhm.
ID Sign Solutions.
Okay. All right,
As long as we're talking about signs, can I bring up the subject about signs?
sure.
Have we ever gotten consistent on, snowfall, no parking during 2 inches of snowfall? I know near, I think, right around the corner from Ross's office, it was inconsistent with the signage down by the Arlington house as to, were there a couple signs on the same post that contradicted each other?
I know that's something that probably is on the agenda for the streets committee, which, you know, there's a number of things that we need to get together as a committee and hash over. As far as winter parking, you
Right.
know, what kind of warning, what kind of signage, when do we tow? That
I
type
know
of
we brought
thing.
it up last winter,
Yeah.
we towed a vehicle and maybe shouldn't have, or should have, or
Well,
it was confusing, so I think we should get it,
the signage needs to be clear first
Yeah,
and
and-
not confusing.
and it's gonna snow tonight, so let's
I
get
know.
on it.
Oh, yeah, right.
Ah, it's gonna all melt.
You go right on believing that, Tom.
I will.
Why don't we move right into the maintenance department update from Supervisor Wickworth, and then we can even touch on a few of those things at the same time. Do you have any comment on Mr. Highlands? Have you had a chance to check on those signs, or what's, okay,
I looked them over there a while back when it was after
previous supervisor had left, and it was thrown at me. I don't recall which ones were inconsistent. It seemed like we had a majority that were the same, and then there might have been one or two that were off.
Yeah,
So
I don't recall either. I think we need to look at the ordinance and
we'll have to get
see which
consistent with
signs
the ordinance and then
for-
decide what we
yeah,
want our signage.
agree
to
with the
actually say.
ordinance. Mhm.
And I haven't had time to tackle that yet, but in the future we'll do that.
Okay, the floor is yours, Kirby.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Mhm.
All right. So it's been a couple months. I suppose I could start with Arla Dazzle, the event we had last weekend. For our department, everything went well. We got out with the garbage cans and picnic tables and electrical cords where we needed them and barricades placed, and we were able to work pretty well with all the volunteers and everything with that. And to my knowledge, it went swimmingly. It went pretty good for us, anyways, and I think it did for them too. Picking up the garbage barrels afterwards. I would guess that I've heard other sources say maybe it was the largest crowd we've had, and judging by the garbage barrels, which we had about 30 or so out, most of those were packed. And I know the Boy Scouts too walked up and down Main after the parade and picked up garbage as well. So this was my fourth Arla Dazzle, and that's the most we've had to spend time with that. So
There was somebody spilling garbage cans.
5, 6 of them.
yeah, somebody got kick happy, I think.
Down in my front yard. That
Yeah.
I tipped over.
Yep, this was the most chasing around garbage we had to do, but I think we got it looking pretty good.
You do.
Might be some floating
You
around
and
here.
your department should be commended for.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
You do a good job.
Yeah, and Mike Wilmson, who started November 13th, he's been able to, boots on the ground, take off running. He started in a pretty hectic time, and I haven't had a whole lot of hands-on formal training with him, but he's taken direction well, and we work really well together.
Good.
And it's been
Good to hear.
wonderful to have Mike on board. So, and just to have two guys again, we get
All by
twice as
yourself
much done.
last year.
So
3 times.
yeah, it's been going good. Other things that I was trying to do this fall, I added a bunch of gravel to alleys and tried to use a warm day when the gravel was a little more moist to grade some alleys and get those ready for snow plowing. I know when there are a lot of potholes, it's pretty terrible to drive on, and also when we plow, it doesn't help. So took care of that. Got all our winter equipment ready. Me and Mike will both be getting familiar with new equipment this year, so we ask the public to be a little patient because it might take a little longer to get snow removed, but maybe just the first couple snowfalls. I think we'll catch on pretty quickly. And once on the topic of Mike, once it does calm down a little bit, which it should after Arla Dazzle here, we'll get him going on attaining his boiler's license and his Class B driver's license. It was mentioned to me that the floor strip divider in the Lions Center between the two floors, which was glued down, was popping up. The glue had given away. So I contacted Travis Tuckenhagen, who contracted his subcontractor, and they had that fixed pretty much right away. So
Good.
I haven't had a chance to pop in there and peek at it yet, but all indications are that was done. We got a sub pump installed in the police department with the project. They ran a line up past the sidewalk for us, and we just had to dig the trench and do the rest and get that installed. With that in conjunction, the roof will also empty into that drainage too. So I don't know if anybody's ever gotten up close to the building on that what would it be, the northwest corner there. Next to the EMS building and the ambulance garage where that corner is, that's where the sub pump comes out. That has been a muddy, wet swamp ever since I started. I'm sure it's been that way for a while, so we'll take care of moisture issues there and be able to get the grass fixed up, and maybe a little landscaping, a little mulch will dress that place up a little bit, get our police department looking nice next year.
Just a side note, we were looking at kind of storage and documents and where they were stored a couple weeks ago, and we were down there, and actually there was water down there, and you've got documents and everything that are soaking up that water. So
Oh, no.
that's a great improvement.
Yeah,
To
I was
keep that area
pretty excited
dry
to finally get that
and
done.
not lose important records
Uh-huh.
to
Yep.
the water. So
Yep.
thank you for doing that. That's great.
Other things, got our hockey, Mike was instrumental in jumping on board right away, and he got our hockey rink set up, so we're just waiting to make some ice. Once it cools down. Hot patching, we had a few main breaks this fall. We got those hot patched, a couple catch basin repairs up on West Main, on the north side of West Main, past 8th Avenue. There was 2 catch basins that needed repair, and we got that hot patched. A couple bad potholes that were concerns for citizens got hot patched, so just some tidying up of the streets for the snowflies. Currently working with Chief Pedersen, the police department, to get some cameras out in our parks. After some recent vandalism, finally took some action on that, and he has some cameras ordered. Relatively cheap setup, only a few $100s. I don't remember the exact amount, but they're mobile. We'll be able to move them around in our parks, outside of buildings, hopefully to deter vandalism and catch perpetrators
The
too.
idea of getting them moved about,
Right.
and then they don't know where they're gonna be posted, so.
Yep. And we will come up with something to keep them in, so they can't vandalize the camera. So
Yeah.
we're gonna,
They're
a
metal.
box or fashion
about
something
fireproof.
ourselves, or yeah.
Nobody's gonna get it.
Okay. Yep. We'll have to look
They're
into
out
that. So we'll get going on that when we get a chance. I'm sure he was on that right away, and we'll be getting on that. Sweeping leaves. That's been an interesting fall for that. About 50% of the leaves fell in October, and the rest of the 50% held on until late November. And in that stretch, Mike had just started, and we were busy with Christmas lights and everything else. And so we're looking to finish up our final sweep this week, hopefully, if everything isn't frozen. But overall, I don't think it's too bad. There were a couple streets that filled in again, but yeah, that's kind of all I had. Other than you mentioned the stop signs already, our street project this year, we need to get street signs up yet, and John has them ordered. It takes a while for him to get them, but all indication was can do it this year yet. Get our street signs
You
up.
mean the street?
Yep, like
Avenue signs?
Yep, Douglas and
intersections?
4th, right, the intersection signs,
Yep.
yep. And when he does that, he'll do our stop signs, he'll do the sign that was run over in front of Arneson's, knock those out.
Drunken driver.
Oh,
No.
That snow parking sign.
Yeah, there's nothing there right
Brakes in
now.
the car.
He says drunken driver and he points to me. I don't.
Here in the park, yeah.
Somebody was intoxicated, made the turn off Main Street, ran into 2 parked cars,
Oh, no.
and one of the parked cars was pushed up and broke off that sign.
Wow.
Did they catch him?
Oh, yeah. He was in court this morning, in fact. Kirby provided me with the cost of the sign. We'll be including that in the criminal prosecution.
All right. I just had a couple of questions, Kirby. Salt and sand, did you get something worked out with the county for supply of salt and sand for this winter?
Yes, I spoke with Cole Albrecht, who took over recently for, I think it was Francis Bigovitt,
Okay,
with the State Department. And he let us know that we're back to our same
okay,
deal we had, where we're actually not having to pay because we have a state highway that runs through, and
Okay.
we salt the intersections.
and how do they
So-
charge? I mean, when you load it up, is it so much a bucket or what? I mean, how do they, because you don't weigh it, do you? You don't weigh it?
It goes by their bucket.
Bucket?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yards.
Yep.
Okay.
Loads, yards. Yep.
Mhm.
But it's
So,
all worked out, we're good to go.
It's all worked out. Yeah, we're back. I got the
Very
truck
good.
filled up right now, ready to go in case I have to
Good.
tonight. So
Great job.
And then doors on the EMS building, I know that we've been quoted a number by Travis or by the company that he subs to.
yep.
Are they still scheduled to go in yet now, when there's
I
a,
spoke with him probably last was about the Lion Center, but before that, a few weeks ago, he had told me that the door was ready.
okay, so
I think
they're-
he's waiting on time
yeah,
in his schedule to be able to do that.
yeah,
So,
okay,
It was brought up earlier today as well, sidewalk projects. I know there was a schedule of the whole community,
Yep.
and what sidewalks needed to be replaced, what sidewalks were gonna, maybe be removed completely, one side of the street, rather, two sides of the street. Has any thought gone into that at all, or is anything coming up? It was said before that nothing was coming up, but I thought we had something on every year for a
I
while.
thought it was 35,000 every year
Yeah.
into refurbishing sidewalks.
okay.
There's,
Yeah.
there is a map
Yeah,
Yep, yep,
someplace.
I've got one at home, I remember seeing it.
Okay.
well, I just wanted to bring it up, making sure that we're continuing on that path and moving
Okay.
forward. And I'm not sure if any sidewalks have been done this year or not, as far as
I don't
the
think they were.
I think
refurbish
so.
and replace.
And I think we've been talking about refurbishing it in areas where we probably aren't going to be doing a street project
Right,
soon,
yeah,
because otherwise, they'll get done
yeah.
anyhow.
Okay. Okay.
That,
Yeah, I
well,
got to get up to speed on that too.
I think it was
That-
Baker Street last year
brought that
they
up.
looked at,
But
Which
we
one?
weren't gonna do that because the potential of,
of it being a street project, yeah. So now it could be
So
anywhere
that just
else
got-
probably,
shifted or
yeah.
kinda dropped off. But
Okay.
yeah, that would be nice to have a plan, or to see a plan what was gonna happen with that, that would be great.
Okay.
There should be
There's a map.
a map somewhere in the office of, inventory that was done on conditions of sidewalks. It
And
was
I
done
think
probably.
a laid out project, or like didn't you have,
Well, there
you
was-
guys had,
Got a big
a
map.
schedule,
Schedule and
Oh, okay.
yeah.
sidewalks that were identified and color coded.
It was color coded, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do some digging and then maybe we can
think
get
it
together
was-
and chat.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
it's the last,
Did
Yeah, so
we
you can
get,
stay on top of that, that'd be great.
last summer, I know we went down, was it Dayton,
Baker,
Baker?
where you did that walk?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Baker, but then shortly after, it was decided to hold off on that, being that may be the next street
right,
project to
right.
take care of that drainage problem down there. So they'll get new sidewalks because of that,
The sidewalk on one side of the street.
or at least one,
instead
yeah,
of
one side of the street.
two, yeah.
Mhm. Tom, you,
the citizen that addressed the council here, one or two meetings ago in regards to his property on the highway going through
oh,
town
yeah,
with the leaves? Did we figure out, is that the city's responsibility or is it the highways? And if it's the city's, did you help the gentleman out and clean them up?
It's done.
It is done? Perfect.
Is it
It
our
got taken
responsibility
care
on
of
Highway 5 then, or what?
Before
I take
Harley
it-
Dazzle.
The way I see it is because it's Fifth Avenue for us.
Okay.
We have it mapped as Fifth Avenue,
Okay,
so it is a state road, but they're not going to come with a sweeper and sweep it.
no.
So we'll have to.
I know,
anyways.
My only
And my
concern was it was-
intentions were to, if there was happenstances that I never got back to that spot, and then we got busy, and Jim had indicated to me that it's a good idea to do it for our dazzles. Last Friday, I made sure to get out and get Highway 5 swept, so.
But I think Buck and, I remember seeing Buck and Tony going up and down the highway with the street sweeper, so,
Yeah.
you know, from way back when, so I was just assuming that
It was our
The city does it.
responsibility, yeah.
whether,
Well, wherever there's
supposed to or
curb,
not.
I suppose we have to do that, or we should be doing that, yeah.
well, just to keep, you know, like you said, the state isn't gonna come with a
Right.
street sweeper and do
No.
6 blocks.
No.
I just wanna make sure we didn't forget about the guy.
No,
That was my biggest
He's been
concern,
taken care of.
that he was taken
Good.
care of.
Good.
Good.
Okay, any other questions of Kirby?
Did a great job on that, Arlie Dazzle and getting the town ready, man, that was, you guys did good.
Thank you. Thank you
Looked
very
like you had
much.
a 10-man crew going there. For
Felt like it. Yeah, we were pooped, I think, but no,
I actually saw
appreciate
him in
that,
2
thank you.
places at one
It
time.
really,
Oh, wow. That's
Spider-Man.
amazing.
Yeah, crawling around the buildings like Spider-Man. Wow.
and you got a new sign up here on the, community center?
Oh,
Happy
yes.
holidays,
Yeah, we purchased a new sign for the that replaced the old season's greeting sign out front of the community center. The light up sign. It was, I think Pat found out it was 16 years old. It must have been purchased when the building
When
was
the building was
made,
built.
and it was falling apart, and it had been restrung with lights, and it was in
time.
pretty bad shape. It was time,
Right.
and now it says Happy Holidays. Season's greetings sign was too big, so we had to downsize the Happy Holidays.
And I would assume it's LED lights.
LED, yep.
Oh,
Yep.
so that should last a
Save
while.
us some energy.
Yeah. Nope.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Kirby.
Kirby. Council member committee updates, anything to report?
Well, I just gave the street committee report.
Nice.
All right. Well, Kirby's gone. I was just gonna, if he needed any clarification as far as, you know, plowing parking lots and those types of things. I did have a visit with Mr. Hahn, Jerry Hahn from Jerry's Foods. And, I nicely asked him if he would consider plowing along with his parking lot, plowing where his employees park. And he refused, very nicely refused, and he said if you get the parking problems taken care of in that area. In other words, there's cars that are parked there all the time. That, he said it's apartment dwellers who park there, and it makes it tough for anybody to clean that lot. So, he said the snow removal is not a big deal. He said if you get the parking under control, we'll talk about the snow removal.
Well, if they plowed the cars in a couple times,
Yeah.
it'd probably take care of the problem.
But I think maybe if we talk to Mr. Brinkman, the new owner, he might address that with his tenants.
You think that's his tenants that park in the one, I'm talking about the lot now by Shad Lindstrand.
Yep.
That-
I'm wondering if that's
Yeah,
some of
I
his.
don't know.
But
Cause
then
where else are they parking?
if they can't park on the street and they can't park in the
Yeah,
parking
that's-
lot,
They've gotta
There's
park.
gotta be a designated spot for people to park for a while.
and I know
Well-
like Mike Heibel has a spot in the alley, and he was just wound tighter and somebody was parking in his spot.
Oh my,
And, so that's gotta be an issue too, that's gotta be
Yeah.
considered.
yeah, and I think some of the changes that are coming from planning and zoning are gonna state if there's a apartment owner, they must provide at least one spot with that apartment for parking.
Yeah.
Because I think there's apartment dwellers now that don't have any,
So they park
designated.
wherever because they have nowhere to
they
park.
have nowhere to
Yeah,
park.
that's why I'm thinking some of them are parked down there.
Yeah.
It's not that far away.
I'll need to research this, but, the parking area on the alley side of the Shad Lindstrand office, I think is a city-owned,
Yes, it is city-owned lot.
and as such, it's not reserved for Jerry's employees.
Right.
So I don't think he has a valid complaint if, other people are parking.
No, he did agree that some of his employees park there after it's cleared off, but he said you've got 2 or 3 vehicles that are there and not moved very often. Well, I know who one of them is, I won't say, but that is an issue, not only in that parking lot, but the parking lot, by the theater also. There was a few cars that stayed there all year long.
I think we have something in our code about, a time limit on parking in city parking lots.
I think you're right. I do remember seeing something like
So
I
might be-
just might happen to have that.
And you know the exact page it's on.
It's not here.
We'll give you 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
with the
I
new
think you're
system,
right.
a guy should be able to find that in no time.
Well, and I think with the new police officers and new maintenance department, they need to know what the procedure is. You know,
Yes.
how long do you leave a car there before you order it be towed?
And we can, I can update them on that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe one thing we could do, you see this on, state highways, you know, the highway patrol.
Right.
You see a vehicle, you know, on the side of the road, and they written on the windshield, what
time.
date and time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or a tag or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's their way of marking, you know, when they've observed that vehicle there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what their time limits are, but I presume if the next time a trooper comes by, if it's expired, they call the tow truck.
Okay, yeah. Well,
And maybe we could implement a
need to get
system like that.
Something like that down
Yeah.
and communicate it to the, you know, maintenance department and the police department.
Mhm.
So
You
that
know,
we can-
typically it's the same people that are doing it. So is there, the police have ways to find out whose car is parked
sure,
there.
they do.
So, I mean, I think it would be beneficial for the city to reach out to those individuals that are chronically doing this and make sure that they're well aware before we tow them for the first time.
I think a warning is good, you know.
Well,
just
but I
a-
mean, just
yeah.
even, not even a warning,
A
but I
letter.
mean, a letter
letter.
saying, hey, this is our policy, you know, we can throw it in our newsletter, probably would
Yeah.
be great to throw it in, for the next couple of months, really, until we don't have that issue anymore, or very light on the issue.
We don't want to tow, but
But it's inefficient
need
if
to.
we do not tow.
Yeah.
We have to tow, if they're not following our rules. So.
I know the new chief has cleared a few of them out already across the bakery, from the bakery, that were not being moved at all, and they're gone. So, he has been aware of it, and I think he knows the ordinances, so that's good.
Ross, would you like to have this put on a future council agenda to
That's a good idea.
keep it going?
I could research it and then report back to the council
Mhm.
what we have in the books right now regarding that.
Sounds good.
All right. Any council committee updates? Okay, hearing none, motion is in order to adjourn.
Make a
I'll make
motion. Second. I'll give it to you.
Who got the,
He did.
It
I
doesn't
gave it
matter.
to him.
It doesn't matter, next
Yeah.
time we'll flip flop.
usually it's you two, it's just a matter of which order you're in. Motion by Hattlestead, the second by Batcher to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
I get such a
Opposed?
thrill
No.
doing it. I'll-
Motion carried. 7:57
Sit
PM.
back and-
It's,
So I'm not gonna wait for like 30
parking is
seconds for
7.03,
Ooh.
paragraph